Vosh has taken the UK Labour Party is insane. Take a look at the policies, votes, and statements the UK Labour leadership post-2019 and give it to Biden. Vosh should be singing his praises. Yeah, I guess the question is, why should you ever trust anything the Labour Party does when they clearly have no values and will sabotage their own chances of winning to prevent a left-leaning person from taking charge? That's nobody has an answer to that. Again, Democrats are relatively trustworthy. That is, you can trust them to be institutional liberals. I trust them to do that. That's why I'm surprised when Biden does stuff like tomorrow he'll be joining the picket line with the auto industry strikers. I mean, that's neat, right? Yeah, Keir Starmer has not only is he flip flopped and like everything. I'm sorry, maybe I don't understand it, like where people are at on this, or like if they don't understand my perspective. Do you not realize how bad it is for the left leaning leader, ostensibly the leader of the left leaning party, to just pivot on the trans issue thing and go to literally saying, yeah, trans women pose a threat to women in women's spaces. I don't have any evidence for that, but I believe it. Like, not only to nakedly shift position on such a serious civil rights issue, but to do so without even the pretext of an explanation. And that's after sabotaging Corbyn. Why should I trust anything the Labour Party does or represents? You know? Like, literally anything at all. Right now, it seems like the Tories can't do anything other than fail and mount up public disdain. And like, okay, great. I like it when they fail and mount up public disdain. What happens when the Labour Party takes charge after the next election and they operate like essentially Blairites at best, except with more reactionary politics? Like, what do we do then? Like, oh, great. It's also worth noting that the Tories are nowhere near as much of a threat to the UK as the Republicans are to America. Starmer and his associates are even anti-worker. Yeah. He's surrounded with like neoliberal cronies. So the Tories are not worse than Republicans, but Labor is worse than the Dems. Yes, massively so. The Tories are nowhere near as bad as the GOP, and the Dems are significantly better than the Labor Party. You have no idea how bad the Tories are? I think I do. I mean, I follow politics. I feel like I do. I mostly cover American stuff, but yeah, you really don't. Oh, well, that's convincing. Thank you. Tories aren't as far right as the GOP. No, they're not. Like anyone who tries to argue otherwise is actually insane. Like the American GOP cavorts with Nazis, attempted an insurrection. The insurrectionaries they continue to defend, by the way, and the current presidential candidate for their side is the guy who led the insurrection attempt. They are touting their Operation 2025 or whatever it's called, which is a like systematized plan to destroy the country and eliminate democracy forever. Like, the Tories are not even remotely close. Also, the Republicans are backed by evangelical Christians who are insane, whereas the UK is significantly more secular, and there's a little bit less, like, metaphysical terror behind their evil plan. Vosh goes on these rants about how dead the UK is. Why do you think that is, Vosh? Could it be 13 years of conservative rule? No? It was dead before then. Also, that's not what I mean by dead. He also massively overstated the Ford report. Yes, there are some self-sabotaging elements of the party, but they're nowhere near enough for the 2019 election disaster. Oh my God. We're going to understate this? Yeah, we got to do something about the sub. It's pretty crazy. I never made the claim that the sabotage was the only reason Corbyn lost. I've been pretty critical of Corbyn to the point where it's gotten me criticism from my own community. But that doesn't change the fact that they shot themselves in the foot to deliberately sabotage him and the party to try to keep him from winning. Like, that's pretty bad. People in the sub should have to pass a citizenship test to prove they watch the streams. True. Yeah, they're just mad. The right has won in the UK. The UK are naturally submissive. You at a king's coronation. Damn, got us. Hey, how's that Supreme Court going? What the f does the Supreme Court have to do with the king's coronation? You almost disbanded that unelected body that rules in a partisan manner on major policy yet? What? They're just mad. Like, they're literally just like, it's like national pride. Do you think I give a fuck when people shit talk America? But like, this is the British thing, right? They have nothing except for their wounded post-colonial dying national pride. So when you insult the UK, like some of them actually get like a stiff upper lip about it. Brits are submissive. Oh no, they genuinely are. I mean that. The national character of the British people is one of submission towards authority. The obsession with prim and proper etiquette, your insane culture of like a royal reverence, which is different from other European countries that have monarchs, by the way. Like, the Brits are way more obsessed with their royal family than like, I don't know, like the Netherlands or whatever, in Spanish, like way different level of engagement on that. And it's because you guys like LARPing as the colonial empire used to be. Like, you guys are only about 100 years away from England still being considered like one of the like, you know, the sun never sets in the English Empire, right? You had India, you know, you had places all over the world, and that was less than a century ago. There are people alive in the UK today who were around. England had its colonial holdings, and now they don't. I just think that a lot of psychic trauma was inflicted on you guys. Well, maybe I'll get a good counter argument at some point. You just have to look at the Labour's draft policies to see they are far more left-wing than Vosh and other leftists actually think. They're only draft policies, so it's unlikely they'll make it the manifesto, but there's great stuff in here. Then who the cares? Again, it's the trustworthiness issue. The Labour Party is currently ruled by the group of people who shot themselves in the foot and over Corbyn. Why would I trust anything they have to say? Like, this is a trustworthy politics. Like, like trust matters. Like, do we just take everyone at their word? When Republicans step forward and say they're going to like bring American jobs back and revitalize the economy, do we like listen? Do we go like, oh wow, they said, yo, outflanking from the right? Why would you trust the DNC then? Like I said, I trust the DNC to be moderate corporate neoliberals, which they reliably are. Biden has actually been better than that. But I can trust them to be that because that is what they are for the most part. On average, the aggregate Democrat is that. I trust that. I don't know what the Labor Party is about, but the current thing that I know them for is throwing an election to the right because they don't like socialists like Corbyn, A, and B, participating in genocidal rhetoric against transgender people to appease a marginal crowd of reactionaries and grow them, by the way. You grow them. When you make public statements as the head of the Labour Party about how, even though you have no evidence whatsoever to support your claim that nonetheless trans women pose a threat to women in women's spaces, like, you are not just meekly conceding the argument to wait for a better day. You are growing the reactionary argument. You are emboldening it. You are giving them more support. You are pulling the entire party apparatus, currently the most popular party in the country, rightward. So why should I trust them on anything? Why should I trust them on anything? Anything at all? Seriously, I'm really asking. People, the Brits, they rage, they scream, they cry. Why should I trust them on anything? Vosh, no offense, but you know nothing of UK politics. See, this is what I mean. When you say stuff like that, it makes me feel like I'm right because I know what indignant, uninformed, ignorant anger looks like because I see it all the time. If you, answer. Why should I trust them? Like, that's what I'm saying. I don't trust them at all. It seems like, if anything, they're controlled opposition. The only thing the Labour Party has done materially in the past half decade is concede to the right and throw elections to the right. So what about them am I supposed to take away a trust from? Like, where do I get that? And how is what I'm saying indicative of ignorance? You can't even distinguish between English and British. I switch between the two when I'm talking pretty often. Almost always when I'm switching between the two, I mean British and not English. I think I just like saying English more. While I mostly agree with Vosh, he's kind of pulling a Brianna Joy Gray here, obsessing with one thing and no idea about policy at all. No. Brianna Joy Gray was using one thing she disagreed with to abandon all moral consideration and just like, Brianna Joy Gray doesn't have consistent arguments. Her arguments are inconsistent. She just wants the right to win. Like, there is no real logic to her position. She's not even an accelerationist. What I am saying is, I think that a shiftless, nihilistic, untrustworthy Labour Party is potentially more dangerous than the Conservatives. The Conservatives are unpopular right now. They're not doing very well in the national polls. The Labour Party is doing excellently. And what does the Labour Party do while sitting in this incredible position of public support? Pivot to the right and start perpetuating genocidal rhetoric against trans people. While in a position of strength, Keir Starmer was like, well, so yeah, we may be at 45%, and our next runners up are 20 points behind us. But now's the perfect we've got no choice except actually I've got no evidence for it, but I think trans women are actually right nasty. Yes, they are right. Like, what am I supposed to think of this? Do you have any idea how weird it would be for Biden to have done something like this? Like, the equivalent from Biden's perspective would have been him shifting from at least 3 genders, Jack, to I don't think trans women should be allowed to like be in women's restrooms the day after he got elected. It makes no political sense. It doesn't. It just doesn't. It doesn't seem to have benefited him. Where is the sharp rise? Where this brilliant strategy of fomenting reactionary rhetoric in order to appeal to a broader cross-section of the population, where is the bump exactly? Can someone point it out to me? Is it this right here? Where is it? It seems to me like it was done for effectively no reason, in all likelihood because Keir Starmer is a terrible leader, a terrible person, and he's spineless, just like the Blairites around him. Spineless. No actual beliefs. Just pathetically, ineptly gesturing at whatever he can in some feeble effort to maintain relevancy, except he didn't need it. Already the most popular party. So why? Why should I trust them? What have the Democrats done to earn that level of distrust? Democrats do pretty much exactly what I expect them to. When the Democrats surprise me, it's usually because they do better than I expect, right? Again, like with Biden and the union stuff. I didn't expect that. I was surprised by it, but positively. The party's the problem, no expert. The Labor Party is full of these kinds of people who back Keir Starmer, who facilitated the downfall of Corbyn. It's not just Keir Starmer. It's the party. It's the Labor Party. Do you know why Labor is such a lead? Because the Conservatives have done nothing but shoot themselves in the foot for the past 5 years. Vosh and BJG have the same rhetoric but different logic. Benjamin Gilbert Lift, do not think donating thousands of dollars will immunize you against a rage ban. Same rhetoric but different logic? What does that even mean? So what, criticizing the relatively left-leaning party is now engaging in Brianna Joy Gray rhetoric? That's how that works? No, come on. You seem confused by what a parliamentary system and what a multi-party democracy is. Why do you patronize me? Why? You guys watch my content for years and years and years, and you can't even do me the dignity of typing out an actual counterargument. Instead, you hear one thing that just at face value you disagree with, and it's like, nah, you don't know anything, you fool. What do you mean? What is there no rapport, no respect? Jesus. I certainly know if I watched Beau of the Fifth Column for years and years and I disagreed with something he said, or other people did, I don't think I would look in the comments and see people, you moron, Beau is so arrogant speaking on this issue. What is with this contemptuous disagreement when I'm not even making extremely strong prescriptive statements? This is all still loaded with, I don't know how I feel about X. I don't know how I feel about Y. But people in chat, it is sneering. I suppose I was just hoping for some kind of substantive counter-argument from chat. I mean, I've seen people who have said things that I disagree with that I haven't responded to. But again, I can't respond to every chat because a lot of chats happen. I'm being genuine isn't the only thing that matters that Labor is better than the Tories. I don't know if they are because untrustworthiness is a factor. Nobody's responding to this. Untrustworthiness is a meaningful consideration. It's not just about, oh, I'm mad they did this thing. It's what if they do it again? What if they continuously sabotage the party or tear apart or move to the right? Because it seems like they have no values or any real positions. Isn't that a worthwhile consideration? Yeah, at least I know about what the Tories, want and believe in. They're fairly consistent. I mean, they're terrible, but they're consistent. Yeah, because we trust the Tories so much, Christ. I do. Yeah, I trust them to be terrible. Yes, for sure. I trust the Republicans to be terrible, too. They're consistent on this. Vosh, I can't visit partners in the UK due to being hate crime for being trans. These people are mauling about, quote, not knowing the difference between parliaments and democracies. What the Labor Party is going to get people I love killed with this shit. I feel like it's very telling that the way people are talking about this doesn't seem to acknowledge or address anything that I've said with regards to trustworthiness or the insanity of pivoting to the reactionary position on trans people while holding this kind of lead in the polls. Can you, can you imagine if Biden had run as he did, and then wildly, after shifting over into being the president, he instantly became anti-BLM and started talking about them being thugs? Except the rhetoric on trans women is significantly more dangerous than equivalent racialized rhetoric, because right now the conservative position on trans people is their eradication, whereas the conservative position on black people in America is more of a, let's not do anything to address your problems, but make them worse and pretend we live in a meritocracy, so you're the one race baiting if you bring up any of these systemic inequalities, which is really bad, but that's probably not as bad as outward elimination, which is the conservative attitude towards trans people. Keir Starmer just lied about his beliefs during the Labour leadership election where he pretended to be like Corbyn but without the baggage. Bosch, I really don't say this in bad faith because BJG is bollocks. What would you say to people who'd argue her not trusting Biden because the student debt thing is different? No, I don't think that's comparable. Every politician will make promises and then not get them done. Biden has tried to do student debt shit. He's tried like 2 methods, one of which was blocked by the Supreme Court, which people didn't initially expect, and the other of which is kind of like an ongoing, we'll see how things go. The idea that that's a level of betrayal equivalent to Keir Starmer being a portion of the party that sabotaged Corbyn and then completely shifted on trans issues for no reason, I don't think it's comparable. I expect politicians to not fully fulfill campaign promises. I don't expect them to just go the opposite direction on pivotal, like, civil rights issues. That's like a very different thing. You know, the most insane thing is that the transphobia isn't even popular with Labor voters. No, it's not. Genuinely. Like and there were people in my sub defending this. This would be like defending Biden or Bernie or whatever, shifting to the right on trans or race issues because, like, you know, well, can reach to a broader audience. What is this going to do? Clearly, it hasn't led to some support in the polls. I have no idea why he did it, except weak, shiftless nihilist with no real beliefs. Again, I just don't trust these guys. Maybe my perspective on this will change in the future if the Labor Party does something, or if there are statements that change, or there's like a different perspective or whatever. But right now, I consider their complete like shiftlessness to be more dangerous than the Tories in some respects, not entirely. Largely because if the Tories stay in power and remain unpopular, they get relatively little done while amassing a ton of national hatred against them. It's difficult being in the hot seat. Whereas if the Labor Party took charge and then effectively just did a lot of the same stuff as the Tories, allowing for an overall rightward shift in the political body and lying about the more left-leaning stuff, that could actually be more devastating in the long run. But that's a very, like, conditional argument. Vosh literally only cares about trans rights when it barely affects anyone is a non-issue to most voters. Why be in my chat if you're a reactionary? Literally, like, what the like, oh, dude, being genocidal or non-genocidal on trans people, bro, this is like a marginal. Like, why even be in my community? I don't understand what you think you're getting from this. Clearly, it's not my brains. Okay, fuck off. Jesus Christ. What is with Brits, dude? Like, what? I don't know if that person was British. They probably were. But like, what? I'm not endorsing the Tories. It's that I don't know how I feel about like the Labour v Tory thing because of the current behavior of the Labour Party. Yeah, shit like this, dude. When Labour was offered the opportunity to vote against the Tory Section 35 order. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, because we did cover this, all right? Basically, Scotland passed a law that allowed self-ID for trans people in Scotland. And in England, they have like a super duper top secret UK mechanism to block other like provinces like Scotland from doing those laws. They hadn't done it in like decades. Like it's like the Westminster something, Westchester, whatever the fuck it's called. This was a process that hadn't been invoked for decades. It's like the dustiest red button in the basement. And on this self-ID for trans people, everyone, including the Labour Party, rushed to slam down that red button. That's it. That's what it took. Self-ID for Scottish trans people. This wouldn't have been imposed on England, but a group of largely Englishmen slammed the button down. 94% of Labour MPs. What the f does this party believe? Seriously, what the f does this party believe? At least when you look at like Democrats on basically every single like civil rights issue, Democrats overwhelmingly vote the correct direction. Not on every bill, obviously, but usually when a civil rights related thing gets put through Congress, it's a partisan split. Yeah, it's like the first time they hit that red button. Yeah, and it was Starmer that told the party not to vote as well. Yes, Keir Starmer was the one who instructed the Labour Party. That's how much I trust Keir Starmer, okay? Keir Starmer said, oh, you know that nuclear option we've never used? We're going to use it here to block Scottish self-ID for trans people, and you're all going to vote no. I'm using my authority as party lead to push you all to do this. And that's what happened. Super cool. Now, yes, if fair to speak well, there are some good Labour MPs. I don't think literally every, like most Dems are neoliberal, but then like Bernie is an independent who usually votes with the Dems, so like whatever. There are good Labour MPs, but they're a small minority. Oh, and by the way, the Labour MPs who did not listen to Keir Starmer and did vote to block this thing, by the way, these are mostly Corbynites. Am I incorrect on that? If I recall correctly, like disproportionately, these are like the people who palled around with Corbyn. These were like the lefty people in the Labour Party. Labour's been ramping up its anti-immigration rhetoric too. The Shadow Health Secretary thinks the NHS is hiring too many foreign staff. That's great. Shadow Health Secretary means that this is the health secretary the Labour Party would put forward if they were the one who ran the current coalition in Parliament. So essentially, the person who the Labour Party will make health secretary when they win, if they win, is saying, yeah, too many foreigners being hired to run the NHS. Sorry, too many brown people. Sorry. Well, not just brown people. Again, it's England, so they're racist in different ways. Sorry, if you're frustrated that I'm covering this twice, it's really just because it bothers me when people in chat or people in my subreddit or people in my comments get so disagreeable, but then like none of the responses address anything that I've said. Like they just get mad at me for saying it, but they don't address anything that I've said. It's like, well, then what the fuck is the point of the channel? What, like, why do I do all this bullshit about rhetoric and like do the argument, you know, learn this, learn that, if like the consequence of it is I get people acting just as stupid with me as like I see conservatives on Twitter acting, where you say something like that people on the right think are incorrect and they just respond with gender and bio pronouns. Like,
in terms of responsible, how did you feel when you heard your leader say at the weekend the NHS was hiring too many foreign staff?
Well, I think Keir's right in the...
Oh, wait, sorry. Labour has also stopped any plans for disabled healthcare and public access. Oh, this just happened 2 days ago. Labour has dumped its plan to expand the rights of people with disabilities. Notice this is being dumped before they're even in power. You know, normally when you make campaign promises and then go back on them, it's normally like when you're already in power. But the fact that they're like shifting back on this before the election indicates that they're not only doing this for like practicality's sake, they are actually trying to shift rightward. Because if they dropped it after the election, that could mean either they're lying or they don't feel they can do it. Dropping it before the election indicates a desire and willingness to be more right-wing on these issues. The party was insisting until at least July this year that a Labour government was fully committed to incorporate the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities into law. Oh, that's all they're doing? Just abiding by UN disability rights standards? Even that's too much for them. This week, DNS obtained a copy of Labour's National Policy Forum documents, which have not been published. Although the NPF document on equality repeats Foxcroft's pledge in co-production, there's no mention of the promise to incorporate the UN Convention into UK law. Is the English public more conservative than the American public? There's more partisanship in America. So the right wing in America are much more Hitler particle, and the left wing in America are better on average than like left-leaning people in the UK.
To the extent that we've got a problem in this country where we have a big staffing crisis at the heart of the NHS. It is the central issue in terms of the challenge that the NHS faces. That's why Labour's put forward a plan for the biggest expansion of NHS staff in history. And because the government have failed to recruit homegrown talent, they are forced to over-rely on staff from overseas.
But because it takes time to train people...
I'm bored of this. Look at these links, dude. Breaking, Keir Starmer personally confirms he would not repeal the Tory anti-protest legislation. Oh, cool. The Public Order Act, this like actual fascist legislation that basically like cuts, like just stomps down on the right to protest in the UK. And Keir Starmer, left-leaning hero, by the way, says he will not revoke it, arguing instead the police need powers to deal with Just Stop Oil. These are the people who like sit in traffic and occasionally spray paint stuff orange, and some of their tactics. Sorry, we actually need to revoke all like political rights so these college students with the orange paint can be dealt with. Thank you, Labour Party. Part of the Public Order Act allows Romani and Irish traveler children to be taken from their parents. Yeah. It's literally like, it's basically like a UK-wide version of one of those anti-protest laws passed in Florida or Texas or whatever, where it's like, yeah, it's now legal to run over protesters in your car as long as they're black or something. Except in this case, that has a lot more to do with police surveillance and power. Love the Labour Party. So again, this is what I mean. Like, how can I muster any enthusiasm for like, you've got to vote Labour Party, you've got to vote Labour Party, where they're shiftless? Every single time a Labour Party official opens their mouth, they shift more to the right. At this rate, within 3 months, they'll be to the right of the Tories. The Tories will be the vanguard party compared to the Labour Party at the rate at which the Labour Party is shifting right. Like, Jesus. New, Rachel Reeves has announced that Labour will not spend public money on building houses. This indicates the party won't be building any new council houses, and that will require public spending. Corbyn promised to build 100,000 homes per year. As a black woman and someone on the left of the Labour Party, I have unfortunately been forced to reach the conclusion that I will not get a fair hearing from this Labour leadership. 14K likes, 5,500 quote tweets. I'm glad we're finally getting the Corbyn segment. Yeah, I complained about Corbyn too much when he was around. Read what Diane Abbott wrote. It was incredibly racist. I don't know anything about this specific drama. Somebody linked it. Something about her not getting protection from like attacks of racism or whatever. Labour also canceled their climate plans during the heat wave that killed people in England. Oh yeah, I think we saw this one before too. Yeah. And this was like during the heat wave or whatever. And it was like, yeah, actually, hey Vosh, did you know Slovenia now has a higher quality of life than the UK? Doesn't surprise me. Diane Abbott said in a letter that Romani travelers and Jews don't face discrimination. If she did say that, then I fully disagree with it. I don't know the details of this one. This was just linked to me. This seems like a whole, like, specific drama thing. So I don't know enough details to say if this, like, meaningfully contributes to any position that I've taken here. Sixth largest economy, by the way. The entire UK economy is like finance shit that happens in London. The countries of the UK are relatively poor. They're doing poorly, actually. The median income in England is £32,000. Median household disposable income in the UK. No, wait. I don't know if that's reliable. The median average salary for all workers in the UK is 27.7 thousand pounds, obviously. Yeah, the median salary, 27.7 thousand pounds. So, median income USA. National median household income is 74,000. Wait, that's household, not... Oh, wait. God damn it. I can't tell whether or not these stats are using household or individual. Forget it. Never mind. There was a study we looked at, or not a study, but like a map. Does anyone have the map where it showed that outside of the cities of the UK, the countryside of the UK is insanely poor? Like really, really poor relative to what you would expect. Remove London and they're poorer than Mississippi and Alabama. Yeah, it was like that. Yeah, this. New America's a rich country. Britain is a poor country with one wealthy region. People love to compare the UK to Mississippi, but it's far more informative to look at the UK subnationally, too. London ranks fairly well. The rest of the country does not. Okay, so this is looking at GDP per capita with major city, or with the richest region removed. So in the United States, over here, you can see on the right side, we have, hey, Seattle at the very top. Oh, no, wait, San Francisco at the very, very top. Hello. Boston, New York City, DC, et cetera, et cetera. And then if you remove the wealthiest region of the country, the average wealth in America does not go down by that much. See? It's just bloop. America's a big country. It makes sense. In the Netherlands, same. Bloop. In Germany, it has no effect at all, basically. I'm assuming this is removing Munich right here. So removing Munich, and then the average income remains basically the same. Whereas over here in the UK, look at the difference between this blue line and the red line. The blue line is if you include London, and the red line is the average GDP per capita if you just don't factor London in. And the disparity is massive. It's huge. It's about par with the average income of Mississippi. Mississippi is not one of our finest states, folks. It is below West Virginia or Appalachian territory. So West Virginia, where like the blood of 40% of the state's residents is like 10% fentanyl, okay? Mississippi is below that, and that's the UK without London. Dead country. Like, look at all these regions down here in the UK that are just hovering down here. In order to get that far down in America, it's like Alabama, West Virginia, Mississippi, and that's it, you know? Even factoring in only the richest region in the UK, London, that's the same level as Frankfurt in Germany, below Amsterdam in the Netherlands. That's below Los Angeles. Los Angeles has a lot of poor people. DC, we've had the worst drop in living standards for 60 years. Jesus, yeah. But the trans people, though, yeah. But the trans people, though, I'm sure Labor has a lot of work to do removing the rights of trans people. You know, there's no other work that could be done. Labor used being a dum-dum in chat. I mean, yeah, they were before, sort of. I mean, he's literally called Labor with, like, the British spelling, so he has sort of an invested perspective on this. Vosh, the UK's total GDP, not per capita, is about the same as California. Without London, it's about the same as Texas. Think about that, then how much more people live in the UK than either state. Wait. How many people live in the UK? About 67 million. Wow, by the economy, I would have guessed around 20 or 30. Whew. That's rough. That is rough. A lot of this is just like the GDP isn't moving. It's not. Dog, it's over. It's crazy, man. Right here, it's like held steady since 2006. A lot of this I think is largely attributable to the Tories. This specifically. You know, whatever faults he may have had, and he had many, Tony Blair did oversee significant economic growth, like Clinton did. And the cons have basically just like run things into into a pillar. But that's not the only problem. There are so many problems with the UK, dude. Holy shit. And they could be fixed. But it's easier to fixate on trans people. Gordon Brown was handling the economy, not Blair? Do people typically give credit to Gordon Brown and not Blair? UNICEF to feed hungry children in UK for first time in 70-year history. Great. Yes, Vosh? Okay. The country that is engaged in some of the most sort of frivolous spending on a number of things that people have predicted the downfall of 50 trillion times or whatever, Germany has seen its economy steadily grow. France has been struggling. That's Japan over there, which has been stagnant for ages. But Germany's economy has been continuing to grow relatively steadily, despite taking in a bunch of refugees, despite a bunch of EU spending. They spend the most in the EU by far. Germany has continued to grow. Not as fast as America, but we are America, to be fair. And they didn't dive headfirst into austerity politics anywhere near the way that Britain did. Though obviously it's not perfect. You know. Unironically, do you want to know how to fix it? You want to know how to fix the UK? Keynesian economics. That's it. Stop the austerity bullshit. Deficit spend. Rack up a debt. Your abandoning of all public infrastructure has caused your population to become diseased, sickly, weak, inept. You have given up on your people, and so your people cannot produce. Okay? Austerity is killing your country. Take debt. Build houses. Yeah, billions must be housed. That's true. Sorry, I didn't mean to spend so long on this, but you know how it is.